Okay, so as we know, when we sleep, the idea is not only do we get our physical rest, it also allows our thinkings, our intellectual processing, what you cannot see, also to take a break.
There was a point in time, I can't remember exactly when, I started to realize that I clench my teeth. I don't grind, but my teeth is clenched. And I would wake up with migraines. And it took me a really long time to realize I was doing it.
As parents of neurodivergent kids, we get very touched when this additional sense of attention is given to our children. Why? Because it's that sense of acceptance. Hello, selamat datang ke Kita Family Podcast. Hari ini kami di sini akan membincangkan perihal yang berkaitan dengan makna serta kepentingan hidup bermasyarakat. Kami menghargai keunikan serta kepelbagaian sesama kita dan meraihkan masyarakat yang berbilang agama, kaum, kepercayaan, rupa dan juga keupayaan. Kita menghargai hidup secara inklusif yang mengambil kira keperluan segenap lapisan masyarakat, terutama bagi mereka yang kurang atau berkelainan upaya. Ini adalah tagline kami di Kita Family Podcast dan hari ini kami bersyukur kerana bersama kami di studio ada Desiree sebelah saya.
Hai, salam sejahtera.
Dan kakak SK.
Apa khabar?
Dan kami masih rindu Nori dengan Didi yang tidak dapat bersama kami hari ini. Namun begitu, kami sudah sampai ke episod ke-49. Episod close to 50, but we're there. Dan kami juga hampir nearing our milestone of our first year when we launched. So, we've come a long way and it's with your support. So thank you for always being with us and keep joining us today from now on. Today's episode adalah berkenaan fear and anxiety. Not just among neurodivergent children, but also among caregivers, parents, teachers. We have a whole spectrum of people who have feelings that can equate to fear and anxiety. So dalam bahasa Malaysia, fear itu adalah rasa takut, rasa cemas dan rasa tersangat bimbang. Dan anxiety adalah keresahan, kegelisahan dan emosi yang kami tidak dapat mengawal. Okay. We'll start off with a little bit of a definition dan lepas itu Desiree dengan kakak SK akan memberi sedikit penerangan berkenaan kenapa benda ini berlaku dan apakah cara-cara yang kami boleh kongsi yang boleh menjadi satu pedoman ataupun cara kami menangani emosi-emosi ini. Okay, so although fear and anxiety often occur together, but they are not interchangeable. So ini adalah satu definisi. Fear is an intense biological response to immediate danger, while anxiety is an emotion regarding things that we think may happen or we will perceive that will be dangerous to us. So satu itu adalah berkenaan respons kepada apa yang kami rasa adalah satu keadaan yang sangat mencemaskan, tetapi anxiety itu adalah emosi berkenaan pemikiran berkenaan apa yang boleh berlaku. So seperti yang kami telah membincangkan dalam banyak-banyak episod sebelum ini, a lot of neurodivergent parents are in a constant state of anxiety. So saya akan mulakan hari ini dengan kakak SK yang mungkin boleh menceritakan sedikit kenapakah, why is it said that most neurodivergent parents are in a constant state of stress or anxiety?
As we know, bila semasa kami ada anak-anak yang neurodiverse ni, memang apa dia, aksi-aksinya anak-anak kami tak sama dengan anak-anak yang typical. So because of that, kami selalu perlu bersedia. We need to plan forward. So parents usually experience a lot more activity that can lead to maybe overthinking, lots of action that is required. So all this menjadi kelebihan dari typical. So just as I described it already, it can be both from a physical viewpoint, physical point of view, that can be tiring, and from tiredness, perhaps sleep patterns may be also disrupted. If you can imagine, if our children have difficulty keeping or falling asleep, or takes longer time to fall asleep, the parents or the carer also have to stay awake. So it can be from physical deprivation of sleep, and all this adds up. There's a lot of physical aspect, but aside from that, there's of course the obvious emotional aspect of worrying. Again, all the worrying matters lah. Yang selalu will kind of go round and round and then become an emotional, as you described, there's the physical and then there's the emotional, and it all adds up.
So when it comes to sleep deprivation, how does sleep deprivation trigger anxiety or trigger fear?
Okay, so as we know, when we sleep, the idea is not only do we get our physical rest, it also allows our thinkings, our intellectual processing, what you cannot see, also to take a break. However, when we are not able to have that, just like any machinery, our brain, if you take an example of a machinery, the brain can also not rest. And there is a complex system of what we call brain neurotransmitters, which then I won't go into the complexity of all the scientific language, but that does not allow us to wind down. Common language is to rest or to wind down. And from there, it can cause, again, the tiredness. We then won't be able to plan, we cannot organize, and then it becomes cyclical, one on top of the other, and that is then the outcome of stress that can lead to anxiety as well.
Okay, so Desiree, we have always spoken about how we wear many hats. We've spoken about the fact that we always have a plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D. So as parents, our first segment is about parents now. When we are sleep deprived or we are anxious, how do you think it disrupts those many hats that we wear, those critical thinking skills of problem solving and making a plan, FGHI, and basically for the well-being of ourselves as care partners?
That in itself, as you listed that down, is triggering my anxiety.
Oh dear.
So anyway, I have to admit I'm very prone to being anxious. I've had anxiety issues in the past, and I also have I don't have insomnia, but it does affect my sleep. So when Kakak was explaining about sleep, I immediately remembered how there was a point in time, I can't remember exactly when, I started to realize that I clench my teeth. I don't grind, but my teeth is clenched. And I would wake up with migraines. And it took me a really long time to realize I was doing it. So to answer your question, that is part of the anxiety of wearing the many hats, actually. So the pressure, and like you described in the description just now, anxiety is basically we are perceiving it, we are assuming it. It's not necessarily happening.
Yes.
Right? There is no danger yet. Right? So in my case, I know now that it's literally all in my head. Kan? But it's very hard to control because as a person as well, it is in my nature. It's always been in my nature to be in control. Right? And here comes a little boy
Who throws it all away.
He wants control. And I grew up in a very traditional setting where it's mummy's way and daddy's way or the highway. Kan? I'm sure most of us grew up in that era, which is not wrong. I really am grateful to my parents. Thank you, daddy and mommy, for raising me that way. I think I turned out okay.
Yes.
Tapi kita kena acknowledge zaman sekarang, parenting memang sangat berbeza. We see more, even for typical kids, we see more things like respectful parenting, encouraging a two-way communication between parent and child, because it's a different world we live in. Correct. Right? Bukannya nak ajar anak kita menjawab or to be rude or to be biadab. No, because of the world we live in, even untuk anak-anak yang typical, there's so many different types of dangers compared to last time.
Yeah.
Kalau zaman dulu, the danger is kalau anak keluar rumah, you are scared they get lost or they get kidnapped.
Tak, jatuh longkang je.
Jatuh longkang, right? Yeah. So what you do is you tell your kids, like in my case, oh kalau nak keluar, these are your rules. Kalau nak kalau nak ada kawan, especially kawan lelaki, these are the rules. Kan? Tapi sekarang berbeza. Everything is online. So we need to encourage that two-way communication. So imagine the anxiety for a parent of typical kids sekarang, right? Needing that two-way communication. And then you add in a neurodivergent kid now in the mix. And dari segi neurodivergent as well, sangat berbeza kan? So whether it's level 1, 2 or 3, the executive functioning is still impacted. So kita sebagai ibu bapa wear the many hats. We have to help get our kids organized. Tapi our kids pun have their own anxieties and fears. So I think what now I want to ask both of you is, how much of our anxiety do we project on our kids?
Okay.
Maybe Anit boleh start dulu.
Okay, I think for me, I know my kids are sponges to what's happening around. And if you have a calm demeanor, they will absorb that calmness. But if you get anxious, they will do so. And that's something I learned after maybe 3-4 years of being a neurodivergent parent. Because before that, you are in a mission to organize and organize it to the T. So when Kakak said, then you get sleep deprived because you have only that many hours in a day. But you need to still organize your work, organize that additional social stories, think about how it's going to be communicated, start worrying about what if this teacher says this and what if the teacher says that. And like when Didi said, when they started a new center, how she sat worried, holding her phone, wondering when a call is going to come for them to say, you need to take your child back. That is a great sense of fear that every child, every parent of a neurodivergent child goes through, because we have got this immense kehendak lah yang anak kita ni boleh di-accept, boleh diterima oleh masyarakat. Dan kami memang sangat bersyukur kalau sesiapa itu membagi masa yang lebih atau perhatian yang lebih atau tumpuan yang lebih kepada anak kita. Kerana it's something that maybe neurotypical parents just assume, oh, the teacher's supposed to do this. But as parents of neurodivergent kids, we get very touched when this additional sense of attention is given to our children. Why? Because it's that sense of acceptance. And so as a parent, that anxiety sort of heightens when you don't know what the teacher's going to be like. And it sort of gets lower when you know that your child is in good hands. So it's like starting a new therapy. It feels like, my late mom used to say this when we used to take him for any assessment. He said, why is it that this boy has to constantly perform? Because it was assessment after assessment after assessment, right? And then it was IQ tests to see the level of understanding, to see the strengths. So it was just one of those things that keep going on. And because you know how much it matters, maybe for school acceptance or acceptance in a center or acceptance among family. So the sense of anxiety is real. Yes. But yes, projecting, I agree. So I think when I sort of said, hey, it doesn't matter, just do your best, they tend to do better.
Absolutely. I definitely project my anxiety on Hans. So I've learned over the years to mask my anxiety. I know masking is not great either, but I'm getting that. I'm a work in progress. So now I mask the anxiety so that he feeds off every single one of my emotions ever since he was a kid. So, and also masking is one, and also I'm in the progress of learning to let go. It's okay. Okay, Sarah, it doesn't happen like this. Or it's okay, we've driven all the way from Shah Alam to KL and he doesn't want to enter a building for a show I paid for. It's fine. So I've come to terms with that. It really helps when we try to understand. I think it's important that number one, we try to understand that our children's anxiety. So the example I just gave, Hans was anxious about going to a new place, and it helps that I understand that's what he's anxious about and not project my frustration, the fact that I had already had plan A, B and C. Of course my plan Z was exit plan. Okay, let's just go home. And being willing to let go the fact that I've paid for something, right? So yeah, our kids don't do it on purpose. And if we can keep our anxiety in check, I'm not saying jangan completely don't be anxious. That's not normal, right? Everyone has some level of anxiety, but maybe we try to keep it in check. We can practice things like deep breathing, like Kaka always tells us about, just so that it doesn't spill over too much into our children's anxiety.
So Kaka, on an allied health professional view, how do you speak to parents about projecting anxiety?
I think going back to being aware, I think it's very important that every individual, as a carer, as a friend, as a professional, we have to be aware of what anxiety is, recognizing it first, because as Desiree mentioned, anxiety sebenarnya is a normal human response, and once we are aware what can make us anxious, so the awareness then becomes that understanding, and that understanding then allow us to work how to address that emotion. So I think I must say post-pandemic, the society, one of the positive outcome of the pandemic, I would say, is the society in general, internationally, even in Malaysia, is becoming more aware of anxiety, stress, the mental, what we term as mental wellness. It is important to have this awareness because maybe if I step back a little bit, when parents, new parents or parents of a new baby coming, we always say, let the mom or the environment be happy. It's just a fundamental situation that we want to ensure there is when you're happy, you're not sad, or you may not be anxious or stressed. And once we have a safe environment, that's when relationship building, we talk about safety attachment. The child or the person you interact with can feel safe. And when you feel safe once again, you can start building on that safety to build further relationships that becomes friendships, that becomes an attachment that's important to enable us to progress and expand what we call the boundary of our friendship. Yeah. So, when Desiree mentioned earlier, it is not the same anymore because now with digital media, information is so available, but the boundaries have become either larger
or blurred
and blurrer.
Yes.
So for human behavior, we actually need boundaries to provide the safety, and there is perhaps why now we see a lot more in our profession, a lot more negative side or inability to manage this blurring of boundaries or enlarged boundaries. Yeah.
Okay, so how is it that we can give maybe a tip or two to our listeners to be aware when they are approaching this anxiety mode? Can you share that? Because sometimes you are so into that situation, you don't realise, okay, hari ni kena buat ni, tapi you tak sedar bahawa your behaviour sudah menjadi semakin resah dan gelisah, dan you tengah buat ni dengan muka yang tak ceria, dengan perasaan yang memang tak gembira. Dan so bagaimanakah seseorang itu boleh sedar?
Maybe I just start with the very simple is the physical one. When I start to get anxious, I will speak faster.
Okay.
My sound can be louder, macam jadi marah, bercakap pun cepat sikit, and you can actually feel your heart berdebuk more. Your heart rate increases. That's the physical side. Some people will start to perspire and sweat. So these are the gejala physical that you can look out for before that emotional aspect of going into fear, thinking very negative thoughts. Those are also symptoms among many.
Okay. And what would you tell a friend? And I think that's the message we want to send out today. That if you see your friend or another parent showing signs of anxiety, how can you help them become aware? And how can you help them feel better or deal with those emotions? Desiree?
I've been on the receiving end of that. So one of my tips would be to allow people to call you out on your anxiety. So I have, my kakaks do that for me. Sometimes when I'm aware of it, I will text someone and ask, am I overly anxious? And they're very honest to tell me, yes, you are. Even my husband is very quick to call me out on my anxiety. He'll be like, you know what, just take a break, drop whatever you're doing and just go out. So that is one thing you can do. Stop whatever you're doing if you can. Take a time out. So what if something is delayed? Right? It's not the end of the world, but janganlah sampai tak ambil anak dari sekolah, right? So there are certain boundaries there as well. Everyone has their own coping mechanism, I think. So find one that works for you. And if you're really at a loss, ask a friend. I'm sure they've been there before and can share.
Kakak?
This phrase always sticks at me. It's okay not to be okay.
Yes.
Yeah. In fact, there is an Australian NGO. If you type that in, you can get a lot of tips. But having friends, having even just one friend or a co-worker, sometimes a buddy in your office, is a very important lens for us. to call it out or to recognize lah. Hey, have you had a bad hair day? You know, boleh tanyakan, just as out of care.
Okay.
And you know, our kids, sorry to just one last one. Sometimes our kids pick it up. So
They are the best.
So when so even though Hans is
They are the
non-speaking, if he sees me upset, he will come and like he will tap my face, and then I'll be like, oh, okay, he's noticing that I'm upset or something. So yeah, for the cue from our kids.
I think my children are honestly my biggest yardstick now, and they are able to tell it way before. And sometimes they'll go, "What happened at work today, mommy?" And and you're like, "Oh, do I look like I've got a thunder cloud over my head?" But perhaps I do, right? And so I think correct. It's about listening to people around you. Dengarlah, terima nasihat daripada those who are genuinely concerned for you and for your well-being. Okay. So kami akan mengambil satu short break dan kembali selepas ini dan membincangkan bagaimanakah kita boleh mempengaruhi anak-anak kami dan deal with their anxieties and their fears. Jumpa sekejap lagi. Hello, selamat kembali ke episod ke-49 Kita Family Podcast. Pada hari ini, kami sedang membincangkan satu topik yang sangat yang sangat kami sebagai ibu kepada anak-anak neurodivergent perlu tangani almost on a daily basis. Fear and anxiety. Pada segmen pertama tadi, kami membincangkan anxiety ataupun fear yang dialami oleh seseorang ibu bapa kepada anak neurodivergent. Tapi sekarang ni, kita nak bincang sedikit lagi dan meneliti bagaimana kami boleh sebagai parent kepada anak neurodivergent identify the fear and anxiety in the child. Actually, this is applicable to both, kan? Neurotypical and neurodivergent children. It's quite overlapping. So I think it's pretty universal. But let's get to it. And before we start, there is this amazing acronym that I came across, which says fear is false evidence appearing real. So, you know, how do we know? And how do we identify this fear? You know, and as we are recording this, we have got Merchun going on outside.
Yep.
Boom, 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 boom. You know.
Happy New Year, everyone.
And with all these fireworks and loud noises, that is something that can cause fear and anxiety in our neurodivergent children. Right? So how do we identify this, kakak?
You know,
Macam mana kita tahu dia suka ke tak suka?
So sebagai ibu, actually as parent or as an adult, the fears are expressed differently. I think different age group.
Okay.
Sebenarnya, like if you are more a younger child, you may cling on to your parents. Yeah, you know how the children cling on to your legs, or they need to be close to somebody safe. They may say that they have a stomach ache, or you know the story about, oh, I have a stomach ache today, I don't want to go to school.
Yeah.
Because they are not able to identify it as something fearful, so it's manifested in the physical. Again, we mentioned earlier things like the heart beating, the perspiration, the sweatiness. Those physical symptoms can appear, and behaviorally, not only clinging, you may see or you may observe the child hiding.
Crouching.
Exactly. They don't want to be seen, or they don't want to see the other peoples. And we know that we always hear about this word tantrum, right? Actually, we must be very aware. Mungkin that is the communication that there is something frightening. So watch out for these behaviors They are a communication of something that is not comfortable. Yeah. And of course, the ones who are able, let us listen and hear out when your child or your children say, I'm afraid. Don't brush that off. Be curious. Do check in again, not only with themselves, maybe with their teachers, with their playmates, what that may be. Yeah.
So this, saya sakit perut, cikgu saya nak balik. Is that quite common? Like indigestion issues, bedwetting. How does that fit into identifying fears, Kakak?
Yeah, I believe it is not uncommon. Again, every child is different. You also mentioned that bedwetting. Yeah?
Yes.
I forgot to mention that. We do need to look out for that. And bedwetting could be something totally new, something that doesn't go away. Yeah, not just a one incident. Or some children may have, unfortunately, maybe a environment that constantly is making them uncomfortable or into fear. They may have trouble even toilet training. Yeah, so we look out for every sign so that it doesn't linger lah. It's not a sustained behavior or action that we see that cannot change or cannot be improved.
Okay. So now, once we identify, kita telah pinpoint apakah itu seseorang anak itu memang takut dan tidak dapat melakukan apa-apa yang perlu dilakukan kerana ketakutan. Bagaimana kita nak tolong anak kita ni untuk menangani perasaan rasa takut, rasa tidak mau cuba, tidak mau pergi sekolah. Any ideas, Desiree?
I think untuk ni the first step is kita kena faham terlebih dahulu mengapa dia takut. The source of the anxiety. I think this is a step that we often skip. We go straight into problem solving mode, which is tak salah. Sebagai ibu bapa, we feel we are doing the right thing. But I think we now need to just take a step back and first find out why. Kan? So where is this fear coming from? Is it really fear? And sometimes with our neurodivergent kids, contohnya dulu-dulu Hans takut swing, kan? Buayan. It's a vestibular issue, it's a sensory issue. So memang dah tahu that is the reason. So bagilah kepada cikgu OT tolong, Hans takut buayan. So they work with him, they scaffold it, and thankfully now dia boleh panjat lah tinggi mana pun tak takut. But you need to first understand the reason behind it. And I think an important thing, macam kakak pun cakap tadi lah, we use the word tantrum, right? Tantrum pun most of the time we say, ayah anak ni buat perangai lah, biasalah dia tantrum lah, cannot get their way lah. Most of the time, of course, that's true. But especially for our kids yang maybe don't have the words to communicate, kita kena cubalah faham. Mereka bukan sengaja nak menyusahkan kita. There is always a reason behind it. And so this was one of the first things that when Hans was diagnosed, inilah benda pertama yang I felt very strongly about. Walaupun tak tahu apa-apa tentang OT, speech and all the different types of intervention, memang saya specifically cari intervention yang membantu kita untuk jadi detektif and investigate why this is happening. Sebab I know we also know, we also have our fears. Masa kecil-kecil kita pun takut hantu lah, takut bilik gelap lah. And where did this fear come from? Right? Some of it is learned, right?
Yeah. Some of it from TV, some of it from friends,
parents. And also kesian lah mak ayah kita, dia nak tidur awal, kita tak nak tidur. So dia takutkan lah you tak tidur, hantu will come and catch you. So it's not wrong, but that's the way it was done back then. And I'm no longer afraid of the dark, so that's okay. So yeah, I think find out first what is the cause, and then go into action problem solving mode. Maybe weigh the pros and cons, how important it is to get over that specific fear. So katakan kalau takut air, for example, maybe pools of water, takut swimming pool, I think that's okay if you take a longer time to get over it. Tapi kalau takut mandi, it's a hygiene issue, right? So maybe you want to work on it a bit quicker. Or takut bilik yang gelap, maybe don't have it completely dark, have a night light, right? And then slowly transition it. So it's a lot of trial and error as well.
So I think to summarize it, what Desiree is trying to say is identify to see whether it's functional or excessive and dysfunctional.
Yeah.
So if it is functional, you can work on it. If it's excessive and dysfunctional, you need help. And please do not be afraid to ask for that help. Sebab ada benda-benda yang bila jadi melampau, excessive dan jadi dysfunctional, kami sebagai ibu bapa yang tidak dilatih untuk menangani isu-isu sebegini, mungkin tidak mempunyai pengetahuan yang mencukupi. Itulah kami selalu cakap semasa kami bincang tu, dapatkanlah professional help kalau boleh, dapatkan dalam support group. These are the kind of things that are right to ask in a support group. Bukannya diagnosis ya, tetapi anak saya mempunyai isu dan takut berkenaan benda ini. Adakah siapa-siapa ibu bapa yang lain pernah mengalami masalah sebegini dan bagaimanakah mereka menangani? Tolong sharekan pengalaman. So ada yang akan mungkin cakap, okay, janganlah bawa anak pergi swimming pool terus. Buat bathtub kat rumah, beli inflatable pool biar dia biasa sedikit, dan dari sikit-sikit tu baru boleh masuk pool bahagian yang tak dalam, not the deep end, you know, like the shallow end, dan biar dia jalan sikit, biar dia confident. So, you know, it is a confidence building issue that comes with overcoming any fear. But kalau dia menjadi physical, how is it that a physical attribute of fear can be overcome, Kakak?
Maybe before answering that directly, I'm just reminded to help us when we say identify, what becomes a change from let us try to do this and help our children is when the word was dysfunctional.
Yes.
But just to telitikan is if the child is not able to do something that they used to be able, something has changed. When they are not able to have to be happy, actually that's just very simple. When a child is not happy, we have to start asking the question. When the child is not growing, whether physically, sometimes you have to find out what is that reason. So coming back then again to what are the things that we can do for them physically is example, perhaps having a squeegee stress toy can just help them just refocus. Just now I explained about clinging. Clinging is going to somebody comfortable, but practically you can't cling the whole day or all the time. So giving them a hugging pillow, a toy, something in their hands can be helpful. The other thing is back again to that breathing. Do it together. Again, just before that, I'm reminded, how do we identify is we need to help them understand their emotion too. So having emoticons has been one of the very useful thing to have on the phone. Yeah, having conversation about what feeling sad, feeling tired, feeling anxious. There are many different ways now using the social stories, yeah, of showing them what this can look, because sometimes they can feel something, but they cannot understand what it means. Yeah, dia tak boleh, dia dapat rasa, tapi tak tahu apa dia ni rasa dia. Yeah.
Can't express it.
And tak ada perkataan untuk menggambarkan perasaan
Tak
dia.
boleh menggambarkan.
Yes.
So using all the visual schedules to teach them. I'm reminded again when Desiree was talking about Hans, and there are many children actually they are not able to this technical word called interoception. Yeah, they cannot sense their inner part of their body. Okay, now be careful here. I'm not saying they can. Please, every child can feel. That's very important. But some of our children, the brain wiring, they cannot connect a feeling to the right part of the whole body system. Yeah, they all can feel. And that's why some of the issues about having tantrum is a very good example is they actually can't feel their bladder full, and they are in pain, and they don't know that it's from the bladder. And that's why they will scream, they'll be on the floor. So all this contribute to what can we do about the physical part. We have to be aware in our neurodiverse children. We have to learn one more extra possibility of why they may have anxieties. That can be translated into fears.
Yeah. So sometimes it's a fear of going to a specific place because of a trauma that they may have experienced there. And kalau cakap je nak pergi tempat tu, dia orang mula tantrum. So I've seen some therapists do this, and they get the child to draw, to play in an environment and start getting the information out. Communication in some form. Where they give them a picture and they say, put or a sticker and say, put a smiley face if you like it, or put as kakak said, emoticons kan. Okay, kalau suka letaklah smiley face, kalau tak suka letak muka sedih, kalau takut letak muka takut. So that sort of investigation, and then they start piecing things together. But again, that's when professionals have got a better idea, because as parents we are so used to, sekarang kena buat ni dah nak masa nak makan, dia nak tantrum pula, kenapa tiba-tiba tantrum. We may not be able to see and identify that maybe a fear of a specific food that has been given to them yang mereka memang tak suka makan. Tapi sekarang akan dipaksa untuk makan. And then manalah tahu ada masanya oleh sesiapa tu memang dipaksa, dan rasa dan that fear of, oh my God, I need to swallow the same thing yang memang I tak suka. Can also trigger a very extreme reaction. So ini semua menjadi bahan-bahan yang kami rasa perlu ditelitikan, and we've said it many times. Sometimes it takes an outsider, right? To tell you, hey, look at it this way, because you're just trying to get a meal on the table, getting you've spent the time preparing the meal, making sure it's according to dietary requirements. Then you need to clean up, then you need to pack up, then you need to prepare for school. So kadang-kadang kita tak ada masa untuk meneliti dengan terperinci. So, we acknowledge that, but sometimes holidays are a good time to do this. And when you don't have to follow a specific routine, it can really help. So, how do we find help, Kakak? I mean, when you say breathe together, not every child is going to sit there and do breathing with you. And as you grow older, yes, with some children, you can even teach them to meditate. But when you can't, what other techniques can be used?
Anit, just clarify that for me.
Other than, if you want to sit and work with the child and get them to overcome their fear other than breathing? What can we do? You use squidgy balls, but
Yes.
okay. What other things can we use?
One of the fundamental is movement. Yeah. Why do schools and parents encourage sports? Sebenarnya, sports is a natural way of reducing stress, reducing anxiety.
Yes.
Remember the happy hormone called dopamine?
Yeah.
So doing sports, that's why schools always encourage, not only from a form of getting an ability to socialize, to learn turn taking, to learn about competition, which again, competitions actually is a form of training the individual to have different level of stress response.
And resilience.
Correct. Yeah. So having sports is one. Earlier you had touched base about art. Using art can be a way to express, to communicate something not written. Yeah. So art, in fact, art therapy is an emerging intervention that is already available in Malaysia. May not be at the forefront. It is quite a intervention that has been used over quite a number of years. In fact, if I may just quickly plug in,
Yes,
please.
Kalau this episode is in time, 12th of February, Oasis is hosting Professor Pierre Pilante from University of Ottawa. That he's a clinical psychologist that uses art therapy. So check out, please, our website, our Instagram, using art as not to draw art, but a way of communicating for well-being. Yeah, and that is not only for children. It can be from toddlers, school age, right up to adult.
So art therapy, 12 February, Oasis Place. Go to the website and there will be all the details there. Don't miss it. We've got an international speaker, as Kakak said. So Kakak, other than art therapy, music pun boleh ke?
Absolutely.
Dance boleh ke?
Absolutely. Dance too? I would say absolutely, because I love dancing. I love singing. So music has the rhythm. Yeah. And again, these are what can be daily, enjoyable, co-curricular, or just chill time. Music is very, very powerful to use just to enjoy it individually or even with friends and with family.
That's a good thing to know. Okay, so Desiree, any last words as we deal with fear and anxiety today?
I think it's about finding what works for each individual. And I say this all the time. And all the examples that Kakak gave just now are excellent. Music, art. And one thing that works for my husband when he's highly stressed is he goes on long drives. He has a 4-wheel drive. So he will go to all the kampong and outskirts areas. Wherever there's a road, he will drive in. And the beauty is he brings Hans with him on this drive. So this is a special bond that they share, I think, as father and son. And it works for my anxiety too, because I get a break.
What about eating?
So
Actually,
that too.
eating too is a form of socializing. Actually, a lot of the activities that reduces stress and anxiety has got to do with moving away from isolation. Yeah, is being with people. Then you can be encouraged. But before I forget and before the episode ends, I know my husband will not forgive me if I don't mention. Actually, it's very trendy now. Yeah, the biking.
Yes, of course.
And pickleball.
And pickleball, there you go.
Yes.
A lot of movement because there's the repetitiveness. There is actually like a cyclical part, cyclical. Even all the batting, badminton, all these do get moving. I think that is a key part.
We got to move it.
Yeah, that's they are playing in my head
It's
now.
a key part. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely a key part. And we don't have enough time to address the major issues this time, but we will definitely have an episode to discuss teens and how they can translate their fears and anxieties into unhealthy behaviors.
Yes, and also puberty and the hormones do a number on their brain and how they process the information. Yes.
Yeah. So I think we've given you enough food for thought today to start off with fear and anxiety. So ada perkara mengenai kegelisahan, keresahan, ketakutan yang kami telah dapat mengupas pada hari ini, tetapi ada topik-topik lain yang masih perlu dibincang seperti Desiree cakap tadi, anak-anak kita bila menjadi remaja dengan hormon, atau bila mereka mula deal with anxiety dengan menggunakan tabiat-tabiat yang tidak sihat, dan addictions and things like that. So whether it is screen addictions or substance addictions, these are things that become quite common. So we will deal with that another time. But before we end this episode, we definitely want to do a plug-in over the fact that we're going to be one. So we're going to celebrate our first birthday. And we're going to do a live show. So for those of you who would like to come and see us live, it's on the 15th of February, 10 a.m. at the Bar Council Auditorium, which is Wisma Badan Peguam near Dataran Merdeka in Kuala Lumpur. It is free. Please sign up now. There's a link in all our social media on how you can sign up. Seats are limited, so we'd like to see you there, like to meet you in person, and like to hear from you while you hear from us live on that day. So hopefully we will see you all on 15 February, 10 a.m. again at the Bar Council Auditorium. So again, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us on all our social media platforms. We are on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and we are growing. And obviously, our full episodes are on YouTube and Spotify. Please share your thoughts. We'd like to hear from you. Juga tolong kongsikan maklumat yang anda rasa telah memberi manfaat kepada anda dan keluarga anda dengan kawan-kawan yang lain. Dan bagi kami, apa-apa maklum balas sekiranya ingin kami membincangkan topik-topik yang mungkin kami belum bincangkan lagi. We will see you next time. Thank you very much. And from Desiree, Kakak SK, and me, we are signing off episode 49 Kita Family Podcast. Bye.
Bye.